What's up and welcome to My Point of View. I am your fat and opinionated host, and if my calculations are correct, about a week ago, Target effed around. And right now, about a week or so later, Target is in the finding out stage because it turns out that Target just found out that it lost over $9 billion in a little over a week due to the fact that they chose to cater to mentally ill people, and due to the fact that Target, no pun intended, is targeting kids, trying to sell them some very questionable things that were designed by a very questionable person who just so happens to worship Satan. Yes, I'm not even joking. We may have to dive more into that in another video in the future, because the designer behind Target's Pride merch this year is a known Satanist who has a very interesting history. We'll just call it that. But anyways, like I said, Target is finding out the hard way right now that, when you start targeting people's kids and people finally have enough and they start standing up for themselves and spreading the message that, it's never going to be a good look for your company. It turns out that even though social media may make you feel differently, sane people outnumber the insane 10-1 in this country at least. I mean, maybe even more. But the problem is the craziest people scream the loudest, and they have been screaming the loudest for years, and their voices have been heard, and they have changed the course of history. They have changed the course of this society. They have completely changed the world that we were living in a short matter of time. And they were allowed to do that because everyone was trying to be accepting. They were being quiet. They were living and let live. They tried not to speak up. They tried to allow people to do what they want until they realized that, hey, at some point, we're going to have to stop all of this. At some point, we're going to have to push back. And when it gets to the point that they're selling trans clothing and Target is literally trying to influence your children to cut off body parts and stuff of that nature, and to tuck body parts, and to basically be insecure about themselves and their own body parts, that's when it becomes a problem. I've realized that you can mess with people. You can mess with people's pastimes. You can mess with people's hobbies. But when you start messing with people's kids, that's when people finally feel as if their back is against the wall and they have to do something. And ladies and gentlemen, if you value the innocence of kids at all, if you want your kids to grow up in a sane world, if you want your kids to not be indoctrinated by this cult, then you better start speaking up. Stop being afraid. You're not the only one that feels the way you do. I assure you, the majority of people feel the way you do. They're just scared. I get messages from YouTubers every day who agree with the things that I say on YouTube. But guess what? They're scared to say it on YouTube because they're scared of losing subs and losing support. If you know anything about me, I stick to my guns. I'm going to tell you how I feel, and if you choose not to like it, that's your problem. I don't set out to offend anyone, but if you're offended by the truth, then you may be offended by my channel. And right now, I think a lot of people are offended by the fact that Target decided to no longer cater to families and just sell you usual products that you may need. And instead, they decided to hop into the culture battle. And it wasn't enough just to sell Pride clothing, which I think is kind of weird in itself. No, it had to take it one step further. It just had to. The chest binders, the tuck-friendly underwear for kids, it's absolutely sick. And anyone with common sense that isn't a pervert, that honestly wants to do things to kids, knows that. But let's just go ahead and dive into this article really quick, because I find it absolutely hilarious how quickly $9 billion has been shaved away from Target. Target stock value is taking a direct hit, leaving shareholders in the lurch as controversy swirls over its Pride merchandising plans. Shares slipped around another 1.6% on Thursday and have dropped more than 12.6% since the furor erupted a week ago Wednesday, as tracked by Dow Jones Market Data Group. That amounts to $9.3 billion in market value. Shares have fallen for 6 consecutive days over that period, their longest losing streak since December 2022, and the worst 6-day stretch since the 6 days ended May 25th, 2022, when shares fell 27.34%. Over the same time frame, the S&P 500 is little changed. For more than a decade, Target has offered an assortment of products aimed at celebrating Pride Month, a company spokesperson says. Since introducing this year's collection, we've experienced threats impacting our team members' sense of safety, yada, yada, yada. They're basically coming up with this nonsense claiming that we've been suffering threats and stuff like that, so now we got to move our Pride stuff. Where are these threats coming from? I highly doubt they even exist. It's La La Land, imagination land. But these people, they have to figure out a way to paint themselves as a victim. The reality is, our country became so accepting of everything that they started having to push the most outlandish stuff just to get a reaction out of people. And that's what's happening right now. The powers that be, they want people to still believe that people are against people because of who they may love or who they may sleep with. They want people to think that, people are really out here hating gay people, when in reality, the majority of people don't care. So what they had to do is they had to start pushing the most outlandish stuff just to get a reaction from us, because we have become so accepting. So it literally took them doing drag shows for kids and stuff like that to finally get a reaction out of us. And then when they get a reaction out of us, they go, oh, look, the bigotry and the hatred that we claim to exist, it really exists. Look at these people, they hate gay people. When in reality, you just don't want kids being introduced and being indoctrinated with all of this weird stuff. So that's what you're witnessing right now. There is a shortage of bigotry and all of the isms and phobes you can think of in this country. So they are pushing the most radical stuff to get you to act out of character, to get you to step out of line, to get you criticizing them so then they could play the victim. Because the reality is, everyone accepted everyone in this country for the most part. We came to a point where if you were gay, if you were this color, if you were that religion, it didn't matter. We grew to accept everyone in this country. And when we grew to that point, that's when and only when they started pushing all of this nonsense. Isn't that weird? That right when we got to this point in this country where we were all coexisting, out of nowhere, these new ways of life and these new ideologies were just thrown out there. 15 years ago, this trans debate was not even a debate. It was not even a conversation. But once we reached that point in our society where everyone was accepting of pretty much everything, they had to start rolling stuff out here, because they need people feeling like the victims so they can control them. That's the reality of this. We have one half of the powers that be. The only way they know how to control you is by making you a victim and by trying to spread fear and saying that, oh, people don't accept you and people hate you, when in reality, no one has a problem with you and what you do as long as you leave the kids alone. So right now, I am cheering on the fact that Target has lost $9 billion and it's going to lose a lot more. I told you all throughout my coverage of Bud Light that I was patiently waiting for someone else to step up and make this kind of mistake, and it looks like Target is the one to do it, and they're not backing down. This is going to be a way bigger fight than the fight with Bud Light, but it's a fight that I'm ready for, and I'm sure we'll be talking more about this topic on this channel. So hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. Before you go, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Hit that thumbs up, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.